Joined today is Michelle from the Department of Ag Trade Consumer Protection. She's here today to talk about utility scams. They're on the rise. We'll break it down for you. But first, we got to ask, how you doing, Michelle?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. You know, we get so many phone calls and random stuff. Mostly, I think it's all scam calls, calling on the phones and all that stuff. But utility scams is one that just really upsets me because it comes at a time of year in Wisconsin specifically. We see it when it gets cold out, and then we see when it gets warm out. It's like, just leave us alone. But you're actually seeing a spike here a little bit earlier than normal, and that's kind of concerning to you.
We are. We're seeing it, as you just mentioned, when it's starting to get warm, but we have those crazy cold dips in the evening and sometimes just continuous days with our goofy spring this year. So, and the other factor we are seeing is that the Wisconsin moratorium for disconnections has come and gone April 15th. So it's another opportunity for scammers to create confusion for people and be demanding and scare them when you still want your utilities to be functional and keep you warm at night or keep the household, everyone in it nice and warm and cuddly.
Yeah, it's sad, first off, that that this is happening, and especially there are people that are in need of services and are looking for help, and so it's catching you off guard when these calls do come through. And maybe tell us, what does a typical scam call look like, whether it's utility or not? What are we seeing that are some similarities here that might start throwing up some red flags?
Yeah, so most scammers are calling random numbers. So anyone can get this. They're not, really targeting individuals who may be behind on their bills. They threaten to disconnect the utilities and they give you some reason. It could be for late payment. Maybe you made a payment, but it didn't process, incorrectly filed documents, some excuse that would seem reasonable and maybe somewhat believable. And then they add the intimidation factor. They say, okay, you didn't pay this, and now we have a work order, a truck en route. You need to make payment right now, or we're going to be doing that disconnection. So they put you on a timetable with this threat of disconnection, and maybe it's the night where we're going to hit below 30 again, and you're going to want that heat to be functioning situation. So they don't give you time to research, think, or react in these situations.
Yeah, and there is your big red flags. I mean, it is that pressure piece, and I know this from talking to you about this in the past, but utility companies overall, if there is an issue, regardless of what it is, a payment issue or you name it, how are they going to reach out to you in general? Are they going to be calling you and high pressuring you, or is it going to come in a different form?
Oh, it'll come in a completely different form. They're going to start with a late notice bill, and then they're going to send a letter. They will probably send a couple of letters, and then in my community, they actually come door to door with their badge, their ID, another letter that they're going to leave for you, indicating, okay, now we're at that stage of disconnection. So it's a process, and it takes a fair amount of time and gives you many opportunities to try and correct and deal with the situation. Find resources if you really need assistance in making payment, because maybe you did fall behind, or as well making a payment plan with the utility company. But lots of time to communicate directly with the legitimate utility company, not the scammer who's likely using spoofing, misrepresenting the caller ID, making you think that they are your local utility company.
And another resource and actually curiosity question here out of my own book of thought, do the utility companies and Department of Ag Trade Consumer Protection, you guys come together yearly and kind of discuss the trends in utility scams and can work together to do some outreach? I mean, we're lucky that we get to have you in DATCP monthly, but do you guys come together at the beginning of the summer or in the beginning of fall and winter and kind of discuss some of these topics so you can share that information together so we kind of know what those trends are in potential scams?
That's a great question. We do have relationships with some key utility providers where when they initiate social media campaigns and also like billing insert education campaigns that let us know. So we can use that information to leverage notifications and further. And then they often ask us if they're seeing something to help promote that information when something is circulating to get the word out. And then we work with the Public Service Commission on this as well, since they regulate those moratorium time periods to make sure that information is out there for consumers, because that is your best resource, having legitimate, reliable information as opposed to what the scammer is telling you over the phone.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear it that there is that connection, and I think that just helps further know that the work behind the scenes is continuing to happen from your part. But for companies to work with you, I think is an awesome piece to combat potential scam, fraud, and anything else in between. So at the end of the day, we say that scams have some typical things. You've already kind of mentioned a couple of it, but just for a few things else to look for, that high pressure stuff, the gift card and payment. These are all things that come in common with these scams, but don't let your guard down, right?
Do not let your guard down. Don't believe your caller ID. Don't just believe what you're told over the phone. If you're asked to make a payment immediately, can't research it. The form of payment is gift card, cryptocurrency, wiring money, something that's not traceable. And it's not the quote norm, if you will, in making payment. All red flags, and certainly disconnect. And then if you're at all concerned about the situation, because maybe you have fallen behind on something or are delayed in making a payment, get out that bill, look at the phone number on it, and make the call or send the email that way, as opposed to any information you may have gotten during that telephone call.
Yeah, and check your utility site too. I've seen some of the utility companies get ahead of this too and say, hey, we've been receiving calls. Heads up, folks, that this is happening. And you might just be going to look and see, why am I getting this call? And then like, oh, there is more of that. But well, I think we've got our guard ready. We appreciate the tips, Michelle. If folks want to learn more about the utility scams, how they work, or just scam information in general to keep that guard up from these folks, how can we find that information?
You can go to our website at DATCP.wi.gov or call the Consumer Protection Hotline at 1-800-422-7128.
No gift card needed.
No gift card, no payments, no information needed.
Oh man, Michelle, thank you so very much for your time. Appreciate you, and we'll check back in with you all next month.
Sounds great. Thank you.